The morning started like any other Tuesday until the sky turned purple and massive silver ships appeared over every major city on Earth. Commander Thylex stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the small blue planet below through crystalline viewing ports. His purple skin had an odd shimmer in the artificial light, and his 4 eyes blinked in sequence as he prepared for what should be a routine evacuation mission. "Begin the transmission," he told his communications officer, a slender being named Karen, whose tentacles danced across holographic controls. Every television screen, radio, phone, and computer on Earth suddenly displayed the same message. A tall, elegant alien with kind eyes appeared, speaking in perfect English, Mandarin, Spanish, and dozens of other languages simultaneously. "Greetings, people of Earth. I am Commander Thylex of the Galactic Protection Council. We come with urgent news that will affect the survival of your species." David Torres, the UN Secretary-General, was having his morning coffee when his assistant burst into the office. "Sir, you need to see this. It's happening everywhere, on every channel, every device." Torres watched as the alien continued speaking. "An ancient force known as the Void Devourers has awakened from its slumber beyond the galaxy's edge. These creatures consume entire solar systems, leaving nothing but empty space in their wake. Our long-range sensors indicate they are moving directly toward your system." The alien's expression became more serious. "We have successfully evacuated 847 civilizations from the path of these destroyers. We are here to offer you the same protection. Our ships can carry your entire population to safety in the Outer Rim territories, where you can rebuild your civilization far from danger." Holographic displays showed terrifying images of massive, organic-looking ships that seemed to bend space around them. Entire planets withered and died as these creatures fed on them. Solar systems went dark as the Void Devourers consumed their stars. "You have 7 days to prepare for evacuation," the alien said. "We understand this is overwhelming, but time is critical. The Devourers will reach your system in approximately 4 months. We must begin the evacuation process immediately to ensure everyone's safety." The transmission ended, leaving Earth in stunned silence for exactly 3 seconds, then the laughter began. It started as a few chuckles from people watching in coffee shops and offices. Within minutes, it had spread across social media like wildfire. Someone had already created a meme showing the alien next to a caption reading, "When you try to save humans, but they haven't asked for help." Another showed a picture of a person with crossed arms and the text, "Thanks, but we're good." Dr. Lisa Reed, a quantum physicist working in Geneva, was among the first to analyze the situation seriously. She gathered her team and began studying the technical data the aliens had provided. "Look at these energy signatures," she said, pointing to holographic displays. "This technology is advanced, but it's not magic. They're using principles we can understand, just applied more efficiently." Meanwhile, General Marcus Webb at the Pentagon was having a very different conversation. "So, let me get this straight," he said to his staff. "These aliens want us to abandon Earth because some space monsters are coming to eat our planet?" "That's the basic summary, sir," replied his aide, "and they think we're just going to pack up and leave." "Apparently so, sir." Webb leaned back in his chair and started laughing. "Have they met humans before? We don't run from fights. We certainly don't run from our own planet." The global response was remarkably unified. Every world leader, when asked about the alien, responded with some variation of polite refusal mixed with amusement. The President of the United States held a press conference where she thanked the aliens for their concern but explained that humans had handled ice ages, world wars, and reality television, so they were fairly confident they could handle whatever was coming. The Prime Minister of the United Kingdom was more direct. "We've been invaded by Vikings, Romans, and Normans. We've survived plagues, bombings, and terrible weather. A few space creatures don't particularly worry us." Social media exploded with jokes and memes. #Thanks but we're good became the top trending hashtag worldwide. People shared images of humans throughout history facing impossible odds, with captions like "Humans, hold my beer and watch this," and "Void Devourers, consume entire civilizations." Humans, sounds like Tuesday. Back on the alien flagship, Thylex was receiving reports from his officers with growing confusion. "Commander, they're not showing any signs of preparing for evacuation. Instead, they seem to be laughing at us." Karen's tentacles twisted with concern. "Our cultural analysis suggests they don't understand the severity of the threat. Perhaps we should provide more detailed information about the Void Devourers." "Send them everything," Thylex ordered. "Full database access. Show them what happened. To the Centauri colonies, the vegan worlds, the entire Proxima sector. Surely when they see the complete destruction these creatures cause, they'll understand." The aliens transmitted thousands of hours of documentation showing the Void Devourer's destructive path across the galaxy. They showed beautiful worlds reduced to barren rocks, advanced civilizations wiped out in days, entire star systems going dark. Humanity's response was to start building weapons. Dr. Reed's team had been reverse engineering the alien technology from the small devices the frustrated aliens had left behind as proof of their capabilities. "If we can understand how their energy shields work," she explained to a gathering of scientists from around the world, "we can probably figure out how to make them into energy weapons." General Webb was coordinating with military leaders globally. "They've given us 4 months," he said during a video conference with generals, admirals, and strategists from every nation. 4 months to prepare for something that supposedly destroys entire civilizations. "I've seen what humans can accomplish when we're motivated." The alien ships continued to hover over Earth cities, their crews growing more puzzled by the day. They had never encountered a species that responded to existential threats with jokes and weapons manufacturing. Every other civilization had gratefully accepted evacuation, understanding that the Void Devourers were a force beyond any single world's ability to resist, but humans just kept laughing and building bigger guns. "Commander," Thylex decided to make one more attempt at communication. He requested a direct meeting with Earth's leaders, hoping that face-to-face contact might help them understand the gravity of the situation. The UN agreed to host him in New York, though Secretary General Torres couldn't help but smile when he accepted the meeting. "Maybe," Torres said to his staff, "we can explain to them that running away isn't really our style." Commander Thylex materialized in the UN building through an advanced teleportation system that should have impressed the humans gathered in the assembly hall. Instead, Secretary General Torres simply nodded politely and offered him a chair that was obviously too small for his 7-foot frame. "Thank you for coming, Commander," Torres said with a slight smile. "We appreciate your concern for our well-being." Thylex settled awkwardly into the human-sized chair, his 4 eyes scanning the room full of representatives from every nation. On Earth, not one of them looked particularly worried about the impending cosmic threat. Several were actually trying not to laugh. "I must confess," Thylex began. "Your species' response to our warning has been unprecedented. In 847 previous evacuations, we have never encountered a civilization that reacted with humor to news of the Void Devourers." The French ambassador leaned forward. "Perhaps you could explain why you think evacuation is the only option." "Your own data suggests these creatures can be fought." Thylex's skin shimmered purple with confusion. "The Void Devourers are not enemies to be fought. They are a force of nature like a cosmic storm or stellar collapse. One does not fight a hurricane, one seeks shelter from it." "Actually," interrupted the Australian representative, "we do fight hurricanes. We build seawalls, we create early warning systems, we develop better building techniques. Running away is usually our last choice, not our first." Back on the alien flagship, Science Officer Karen was conducting detailed psychological analysis of human behavior patterns. The results made no sense according to their models. "Commander," she reported when Thylex returned from his meeting, "I believe we are dealing with a species that has never learned appropriate fear responses to overwhelming threats." "Explain," Thylex said, settling into his proper-sized command. "Chair, every species we've encountered shows rational self-preservation instincts. When faced with a threat beyond their capability to handle, they seek escape or protection. Humans appear to lack this basic survival programming." Instead, they respond to existential threats by attempting to create bigger threats to use against them. Thylex reviewed the data streaming in from human activities around the globe. Instead of packing their belongings for evacuation, humans were converting factories to produce weapons. Instead of building evacuation shelters, they were constructing what appeared to be massive defensive installations. Instead of fleeing to safe locations, they were volunteering for military service. In record numbers. "Show me Dr. Reed's facility," he requested. The holographic display revealed a scene that would have been impossible in any other civilization they had encountered. Dr. Lisa Reed stood in a laboratory surrounded by pieces of alien technology that her team had somehow dismantled and rebuilt into entirely new configurations. She was explaining to a group of engineers how to weaponize alien shield generators. "If we reverse the polarity and increase the power output by 300%, she said, manipulating a holographic model, "we can create a directed energy beam that should disrupt the molecular cohesion of organic matter. Basically, we're turning their own protection technology into a weapon." One of the engineers raised his hand. "What about the power requirements?" "The alien ships use fusion reactors we can't replicate." "We'll use fusion bombs," Reed replied. Matter-of-factly, 1 bomb per shot. Not exactly efficient, but it should work. The alien observers watched in horrified fascination as humans casually discussed using weapons of mass destruction as ammunition for devices they had invented by reverse engineering technology. They had seen for the first time 2 weeks ago. General Webb's operations center showed equally disturbing levels of human adaptability. He was coordinating with space agencies worldwide to convert every available rocket, satellite, and space station into weapons platforms. The International Space Station was being retrofitted with railguns. The Mars colony was being turned into a forward military base. Even the moon was being surveyed for placement of mass drivers. "The way I see it," Webb explained to his international counterparts, "we've got 4 months to turn our entire solar system into the most heavily defended location in the galaxy. Every asteroid becomes a missile. Every satellite becomes a gun. Platform, every space station becomes a fortress." The Chinese general nodded approvingly. "We are already moving our manufacturing capacity to orbital platforms. If these creatures feed on planets, we will give them something harder to digest." Meanwhile, civilian populations were responding with their own brand of stubborn determination. Social media had evolved beyond jokes to practical preparation. Engineers were sharing blueprints for improvised weapons. Physicists were posting theories about alien technology. Military veterans were organizing civilian defense groups. A popular video showed a farmer in Texas who had converted his barn into a workshop for building what he called alien-proof armor, using scrap metal and alien shield principles he had learned from internet forums. "If they want to mess with Earth," he said, welding a helmet that looked like it belonged in a science fiction movie, "they're going to have to go through every human on this planet." Commander Thylex called another meeting with the Galactic Protection Council to report on the situation. The holographic forms of council members from across the galaxy appeared in his command center, their various alien faces showing expressions of concern and confusion. "Commander," said the council leader, a being of pure energy contained in a crystalline form, "your report suggests that the humans are preparing for military engagement with the Void Devourers. This is highly irregular." "It is also highly dangerous," added another council member, a creature that resembled a floating jellyfish. "No species has ever survived direct confrontation with the Devourers. Their power is absolute." Felix's skin shifted to a deeper purple. "I have tried to explain this to them. They simply do not accept that some threats cannot be fought. They appear to believe that sufficient firepower and determination can overcome any obstacle." "Perhaps," suggested the energy being, "we should simply begin forced evacuation procedures. We cannot allow an entire species to commit suicide through ignorance." "I do not believe it is ignorance," Thylex replied slowly. "I believe it is something else entirely. Something we have not encountered before." The council members exchanged Glances, or the equivalent among species that communicated through energy patterns and chemical signals. What do you recommend? Asked the crystalline leader. Thylex looked at the data streaming from Earth, showing humans working around the clock to build weapons, defenses, and preparations for a war that every other species in the galaxy knew was unwinnable. I recommend we extend our deadline. Let us see what these humans actually plan to do. Perhaps we will learn something useful. Or perhaps, said the jellyfish-like being, we will witness the most spectacular failure in galactic history. On Earth, Dr. Reed was putting the finishing touches on the first human-alien hybrid weapon system. It was ugly, improvised, and completely against every safety regulation ever written. It was also, according to her calculations, capable of producing an energy output that would make the aliens' own weapons look like flashlights. It probably won't work, she told her team, and if it does work, it might kill us all. But it will definitely get their attention. General Webb was receiving reports from military installations worldwide. Every nation had contributed resources to what was being called the most ambitious military project in human history. We're not just fighting for Earth, he told his staff. We're fighting to prove that running away isn't always the answer. The aliens continued to monitor human activities with growing amazement and concern. They had never seen a species prepare for war with such enthusiasm and innovation. More importantly, they had never seen a species refuse to acknowledge that some battles cannot be won. What they were about to discover was that humans had never learned the difference between a battle that cannot be won and a battle that simply has not been won yet. The alarms on the alien flagship began wailing at 0347 hours Earth time. Commander Thylex bolted upright in his rest chamber as Karen's voice echoed through the ship's communication system. Commander, they're here. The Void Devourers have emerged at the edge of the solar system. Thylex rushed to the bridge, his 4 eyes focusing on the long-range sensor displays. There they were, just as the computer models had predicted. Massive organic shapes that seemed to absorb light itself, moving through space with the slow, inevitable motion of cosmic predators. The largest was easily the size of Earth's moon, while dozens of smaller ones spread out like a dark infection across the star field. Begin emergency evacuation protocols, Thylex ordered. All ships to maximum alert. We need to get the humans off that planet before... Commander, Karen interrupted. The humans are not evacuating. They're launching. The sensor displays showed thousands of objects lifting off from Earth's surface. Rockets, shuttles, and craft that looked like they had been built in someone's garage were streaming toward the outer solar system. The moon had become a massive launch platform, firing projectiles the size of buildings toward the approaching threat. This is madness, whispered one of the alien bridge officers. They're flying toward the Devourers. Captain Ryan Knox sat in the cockpit of what had once been a commercial passenger shuttle and was now a flying weapon platform, covered in improvised armor and enough firepower to level a small city. Behind him, a crew of volunteers from 12 different countries worked frantically to keep the hybrid human-alien systems operational. Phoenix Squadron, this is Phoenix Leader, he broadcast on the open channel. Remember, we're not trying to win this fight. We're trying to start it. Let's show these things what happens when they come to the wrong neighborhood. The first wave of human fighters met the Void Devourers near Jupiter. The alien observers watched in horror as the tiny human ships opened fire with weapons that should not have been possible. Dr. Reed's energy cannons tore through space with brilliant flashes of light, while mass drivers fired solid projectiles at significant fractions of light speed. The Void Devourers responded as they always did to resistance. They simply absorbed the incoming fire, their organic hulls glowing briefly as they converted the energy into fuel for their own systems. The smaller human ships were caught in tractor beams and pulled toward gaping maws filled with processing organs designed to break down matter at the molecular level. But the humans had expected this. Phoenix Leader to all units, Knox's voice crackled across the communications channels. Remember, we're not here to kill them. We're here to make them hungry. Phoenix Squadron execute Baker Protocol. The first wave of human ships suddenly exploded in brilliant nuclear fireballs, not from being destroyed, but from deliberately detonating their own fusion reactors. The Void Devourers, programmed by millions of years of evolution to absorb energy, immediately began feeding on the nuclear explosions. What they didn't realize was that the humans had mixed something extra into their fusion reactions, Trojan. Horse payload deployed, reported Dr. Reed from her command center on the moon. The nanobots should be inside their systems now. The nanobots were perhaps the most insane part of the human plan. Microscopic machines designed to be absorbed along with the nuclear energy then activated once inside the Void Devourer's biological systems. Their purpose was not to destroy the creatures, but to map their internal structure and transmit the data back to human forces. General Webb received the first intelligence reports 12 minutes after the initial contact. "They're not ships," he announced to his staff. "They're organisms. Massive space-dwelling creatures that have evolved to feed on stellar energy. They have organs, nervous systems, and what appears to be a distributed brain structure. In other words," said his aide, "they can be killed. More importantly," Webb replied, "they can be hurt. And if they can be hurt, they can be fought." The second wave of human forces was already launching from Earth's surface. These were not the improvised fighters of the first wave, but purpose-built war machines that incorporated everything humans had learned about the Void Devourers in the past 20 minutes. Lieutenant Amy Foster commanded a squadron of what the humans called piercer ships, built around single massive railguns. These vessels were designed to punch through the Devourers' organic armor and deliver specialized payloads directly into their vital organs. "Piercer Squadron, this is Piercer Leader," she broadcast. "We have target data from Phoenix Squadron Sacrifice. Multiple weak points identified. Remember, we're not trying to kill them with the railguns. We're trying to give them indigestion." The specialized payloads were another example of human ingenuity applied to impossible problems. Unable to create weapons powerful enough to destroy the Void Devourers outright, the humans had instead created weapons designed to make the creatures sick. Biological agents that would disrupt their digestive processes, chemical compounds that would interfere with their energy absorption, and mechanical devices that would physically damage their internal organs. Commander Thylex watched the battle with growing amazement. The humans were not fighting the Void Devourers like any other species had fought them. They were fighting them like humans fought everything else, with a combination of creativity, determination, and complete disregard for conventional wisdom. "Karen," he said, "are you recording all of this?" "Yes, Commander. Though I'm not sure. The Council will believe it." The piercer ships dove through the Void Devourers' defensive fields like bullets through tissue paper. Their rail guns punched deep into the creatures' organic hulls, delivering payloads that immediately began working from the inside out. The largest Void Devourer, which had been methodically consuming asteroids from the asteroid belt, suddenly convulsed and began vomiting partially digested matter back into space. "Direct hit on target Alpha," reported Foster. "Deploying secondary payload." The secondary payload was pure human spite engineered into a weapon. If the Void Devourers wanted to absorb energy, the humans would give them energy they couldn't digest. Antimatter bombs designed to detonate inside the creatures' stomachs, creating reactions that would tear them apart from within. The largest Void Devourers' death throes were visible from Earth, as brilliant flashes of light that outshone Jupiter. The creature's organic hull split open like a rotten fruit, spilling bioluminescent fluids across thousands of kilometers of space. The remaining Void Devourers, faced with the first resistance they had encountered in millennia, began to adapt. They spread out, attempting to avoid the human weapons. They began generating defensive fields designed to deflect the railgun projectiles. They even started firing back, launching organic missiles that sought out human ships with predatory intelligence. This was exactly what the humans had hoped for. "All units, this is command," General Webb's voice echoed across the solar system. "The enemy is now actively fighting instead of just feeding. They're treating us as a threat instead of just food. Phase 3 is authorized. Phase 3 was the part of the plan that had made even the most optimistic human strategists nervous. If the Void Devourers could be forced to fight instead of just consume, then they could be forced to stay in one place long enough for the humans to deploy their most dangerous weapons. The moon's surface opened like a flower, revealing the massive electromagnetic railgun that had been under construction for the past 4 months. The projectile it fired was not a conventional weapon, but a modified asteroid fitted with the most powerful fusion bomb humans had ever built. Guided by an AI system that had been programmed with one simple instruction: hit the biggest target. And don't miss, the projectile crossed the solar system in 18 minutes, striking the largest remaining Void Devourer with the force of a small star. The explosion was visible from Earth as a new sun that blazed for 47 seconds before fading when the light cleared. The Void Devourer was gone, but the humans were not finished. They had learned something important about their enemies. They could be killed, they could be hurt, and most importantly, they could be made to run. The remaining Void Devourers, faced with losses they had never experienced before, began to retreat toward the edge of the solar system. They had encountered something new in their millions of years of existence, a species that fought back with weapons designed specifically to kill them. Commander Thylex stared at the tactical displays in stunned silence. In less than 6 hours, humans had accomplished what no other species in the galaxy had managed in recorded history. They had fought the Void Devourers and won. "Karen," he said quietly, "I think we may have underestimated these humans." The retreat of the Void Devourers should have been the end of the battle, but humans had never been particularly good at knowing when to stop fighting. As the surviving creatures limped toward the edge of the solar system, trailing bioluminescent fluid and debris from their wounded hulls, the human fleet regrouped for what General Webb was calling aggressive pursuit. Commander Thylex found himself in the unprecedented position of trying to convince a species to stop fighting an enemy they were actually defeating. His communication with Earth's command center had become increasingly surreal over the past hour. "General Webb," he said, his image appearing on the holographic display in the Pentagon War Room, "the Void Devourers are retreating. You have successfully defended your system. There is no need for further engagement." Webb looked up from a tactical display showing human ships forming attack formations around the fleeing creatures. "Commander, with respect, these things have been terrorizing the galaxy for who knows how long. They came here expecting an easy meal. I think it's time someone taught them that some meals fight back." "You don't understand," Thylex insisted. "No species has ever pursued the Void Devourers. When they retreat, civilizations celebrate and rebuild. The threat is over." "The threat is over when they're dead," Webb replied. "All of them." Dr. Reed had established a command center on the moon's surface where she was coordinating the technical aspects of what the humans were calling Project Cleanup. The nanobots from the initial attack had provided detailed intelligence about Void Devourer biology, and she was using that information to design increasingly effective weapons. "The beautiful thing about fighting living creatures," she explained to her team, "is that they have weaknesses. And the beautiful thing about weaknesses is that they can be exploited." Her latest creation was a biological weapon specifically designed to target the Void Devourers' nervous systems. It was a virus that would spread through their organic hulls, causing paralysis and eventual death. The delivery system was typically human, artillery shells fired from railguns. Because subtlety had never been humanity's strong suit, Lieutenant Foster was leading the pursuit squadron, her piercer ships harassing the retreating Void Devourers like wolves chasing wounded prey. The creatures were trying to escape the solar system, but their injuries were slowing them down, and human ships were faster than anyone had expected. "Piercer leader to all units," she broadcast. "Target the smaller ones first. Let's see if we can cut off their retreat." The human tactics had evolved throughout the battle. What had started as desperate defensive measures had become coordinated offensive operations. The humans were learning to fight the Void Devourers with the same systematic approach they had used to develop the technology in the first place. Captain Knox, having survived the initial assault, was now commanding a new type of vessel that human engineers had designed during the battle. Built around the wreckage of destroyed alien ships and powered by captured Void Devourer technology, it was a hybrid creation that looked like it had been assembled by talented madmen. Phoenix leader to Dr. Reed, he reported. We've got 3 small devourers cornered near Mars. They're trying to hide in the asteroid belt, but they're too big to be sneaky. Request permission to test the new bioweapon. Permission granted, Reed replied. Try not to blow up Mars while you're at it. The bioweapon deployment was everything the humans had hoped for. The virus spread through the Void Devourer's organic hulls like fire through dry grass, causing massive system failures as their nervous systems shut down. The creatures writhed in space, their death throes creating brilliant displays of bioluminescent light that were visible from Earth. But the most important development was happening on the alien flagship, where Commander Thylex was having a conversation. That would change the course of galactic history. Karen, he said, I need you to run a complete analysis of human military capabilities. Not just what they've shown us, but what they might be capable of given sufficient time and resources. The science officer's tentacles danced across her controls, pulling up data from the past 6 hours of combat. Commander, the results are concerning. Human technological advancement appears to be exponential when they're motivated by conflict. They've made advances in the past 4 months that most species take centuries to achieve. Show me the projections. The holographic display showed a timeline of human development, starting from their first contact with alien technology and projecting forward based on their demonstrated learning curve. The results were sobering. If current trends continue, Karen reported, humans will surpass our own technological capabilities within 5 years. Within 10 years, they may be the most advanced military force in the galaxy. Thylex's skin shifted to a deep purple that indicated serious concern. What? About their expansion capabilities? Even more concerning. They're already adapting Void Devourer technology for their own use. Their engineers are reverse engineering organic space travel, energy absorption systems, and biological weapons. They appear to be planning to use the creature's own biology against them. The tactical display showed human ships beginning to feed on the remains of destroyed Void Devourers, their crews somehow finding ways to digest and repurpose the alien organic matter. It was a level of adaptability that bordered on the terrifying. Commander, came a communication from the Galactic Protection Council, who were receiving reports from across the galaxy. The Void Devourers are fleeing in all directions. Some are heading toward Council worlds, seeking refuge from whatever they encountered in the Sol system. Thelex looked at the data streaming from the battle. The humans had not just defeated the Void Devourers, they had terrified them. Creatures that had consumed entire civilizations were now running from a single planet that had been considered primitive just months ago. Council, I need to make a recommendation, he said. We need to establish formal diplomatic relations with Earth immediately. Not as protectors, but as allies. Allies? The council leader's energy patterns flickered with confusion. They're a pre-spaceflight civilization. What could they possibly offer us? They can teach us how to fight. The conversation was interrupted by reports from the battle zone. The humans had successfully cornered the largest surviving Void Devourer near the edge of the solar system. Instead of destroying it, they were apparently trying to capture it alive. General Webb's voice crackled across the communications channel. Live specimen secured. Beginning transport to Lunar Research Facility. Dr. Reed, I hope you've got your dissection tools ready. This is unprecedented, whispered one of the alien bridge officers. They're going to study a live Void Devourer. They're going to do more than study it, Thylex realized. They're going to learn from it. And then they're going to build something worse. The human fleet began the journey back to Earth, towing their captured Void Devourer behind them like a prize of war. The creature was still alive, its organic hull pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that might have been pain, fear, or rage. The humans had managed to paralyze it without killing it, using a combination of biological agents and electromagnetic fields that had been developed during the battle. Dr. Reed was already making plans for the research facility. We'll need to study their energy absorption methods, their organic technology, their reproductive systems. If we can understand how they work, we can understand how to make them work for us. Are you suggesting we try to domesticate them? Asked one of her assistants. I'm suggesting we try to improve them. These creatures have been terrorizing the galaxy for millions of years. Imagine what we could accomplish if we could harness that kind of power for constructive purposes. The alien observers watched with growing alarm as humans began discussing plans to weaponize, domesticate, and improve upon the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. It was becoming clear that the Void Devourers had not encountered a species that would fight them. They had encountered a species that would eat them. Commander, Thylex opened a direct channel to Earth's leadership. Secretary General Torres, I believe it's time for a more serious conversation about humanity's place in the galaxy. Torres appeared on the holographic display, looking remarkably calm for someone whose species had just fought and won a war against cosmic horror. Commander, I hope you're not going to suggest we evacuate Earth again. On the contrary, Thylex replied. I'm going to suggest that Earth consider evacuating other worlds to safety from you. 6 months after the Battle of Sol, the galaxy had become a very different place. The Galactic Protection Council's emergency session was taking place in a heavily shielded station at the edge of civilized space, as far from Earth as possible. While still maintaining communications. Commander Thylex stood before the assembled representatives of 47 different species. His purple skin now permanently darkened with stress patterns that had developed since his first encounter with humans. The holographic displays around the chamber showed data that most council members were still struggling to accept. The situation, he began, has evolved beyond our most pessimistic projections. The crystalline energy being that led the council pulsed with concerned light. Explain the current human activities, Commander. Thylex activated the display showing the Sol system. What had once been a simple star system with 9 planets was now a fortress that made the galaxy's most advanced military installations look like children's toys. The asteroid belt had been converted into a massive ring of weapons platforms. Mars had been hollowed out and turned into a shipyard. The moon was now entirely artificial, its surface covered with facilities that produced technologies the Council's scientists couldn't even identify. They've begun what they call expansion protocols, Thylex continued. 17 human ships have left the Sol system in the past month. Each one is approximately the size of a small moon and appears to be powered by captured Void Devourer technology. The jellyfish-like council members' tentacles writhed with agitation. Are they colonizing? No, Thylex replied. They're hunting. The display showed tracking data from across the galaxy. Human ships were systematically hunting down the remaining Void Devourers, but not to destroy them. They were capturing them, studying them, and according to intelligence reports, improving them. Dr. Reed had established research facilities on 12 different worlds, each one dedicated to understanding and exploiting different aspects of Void Devourer biology. Her latest reports made for terrifying reading. We've successfully bred 3 new variants, she had announced in her most recent communication to Earth. The first one is smaller but faster, perfect for reconnaissance and harassment. The second one is designed specifically for consuming metal and technology rather than organic matter. The third one is designed to hunt other Void Devourers. General Webb, now holding the title of Admiral of the Human Space Defense Force, was coordinating expansion efforts across multiple star systems. His strategy was simple: find threats to humanity and eliminate them before they became problems. The fact that most of these threats had never actually threatened humanity was considered irrelevant. The way I see it, he explained to his staff, the galaxy is full of things that could potentially be dangerous to Earth. Our job is to make sure they're not dangerous to Earth anymore. The human approach to galactic politics was proving to be unlike anything the Council had encountered. When they discovered a species that had been enslaving other races, they didn't negotiate or impose sanctions. They simply showed up with ships full of weaponized void devourers and politely suggested that slavery was no longer acceptable when they found a rogue artificial intelligence that had been consuming entire star systems to build computing power. They didn't try to reason with it or contain it. They fed it to a specially designed void devourer that had been modified to consume digital consciousness. When they encountered a species that had been strip mining inhabited worlds, they didn't file diplomatic protests. They introduced them to a variant of void devourer that preferred to eat industrial equipment and left the miners stranded on the worlds they had been destroying. Secretary General Torres, who had been promoted to Galactic Affairs Coordinator, was taking a diplomatic approach that the Council found deeply unsettling. She was polite, reasonable, and absolutely inflexible when it came to what humans considered acceptable behavior. "We're not trying to conquer the galaxy," she explained to the Council during one of their increasingly frequent emergency sessions. "We're trying to fix it. It seems like every time we investigate a problem, we find species that have been causing suffering for thousands of years because nobody was willing to stop them." "But your methods," protested the energy being. "They're extremely aggressive." "Our methods are effective," Torres replied. "For the first time in recorded history, the galaxy is becoming a safer place. Slavery is ending. Genocide is stopping. Worlds are being freed from exploitation. We're not doing this by conquering anyone. We're doing it by making the consequences of bad behavior too expensive to ignore." The Council members exchanged glances or their equivalent. They had noticed that the galaxy was becoming more peaceful, but they had also noticed that it was becoming more peaceful because everyone was afraid of what humans might do if they misbehaved. Captain Knox, now commanding a fleet of hybrid human-alien vessels, was reporting from the Outer Rim territories. His ships were gorgeous and terrifying, combining human engineering with alien technology and void devourer biology in ways that shouldn't have been possible. "We've encountered a species that calls itself the Eternal Empire," he reported. "They've been conquering and enslaving worlds for over 10,000 years. They seem to think they're entitled to rule the galaxy because they're older than everyone else. What's your assessment?" asked Admiral Webb. "They're about to discover that age doesn't matter if you can't fight. We've got their capital system surrounded. They're demanding to speak to our leaders." "Tell them our leaders are busy," Webb replied. "And tell them that if they want to keep their empire, they need to start treating their subjects like citizens instead of property." The Eternal Empire, which had dominated its region of the galaxy for millennia, surrendered within a week. Their ancient technologies were no match for human weapons, and their massive fleets were useless against creatures that could simply eat their ships. Lieutenant Foster, now commanding her own task force, was dealing with a different kind of problem. She had discovered a species that had been secretly manipulating other civilizations for their own benefit, using advanced technology to pose as gods and demanding worship from primitive species. "It's really quite simple," she explained to the fake gods when she arrived at their hidden world. "You can stop pretending to be divine and start helping the species you've been exploiting, or you can meet some real cosmic horrors that we've been keeping as pets." The fake gods chose to become philanthropists back on Earth. Children were growing up in a world where the galaxy was humanity's playground. They learned about alien species in school, studied void devourer biology in high school, and expected to spend their careers exploring the stars and solving problems that had been considered impossible for thousands of years. The alien observers, who remained in the Sol system, sent regular reports to the Council, each one more concerning than the last. Humans weren't just expanding into space. They were transforming it. They were turning dead worlds into gardens, hostile environments into homes, and dangerous creatures into allies. Commander Thylex filed his final report to the Galactic Protection Council with a mixture of admiration and terror. "The humans have accomplished something unprecedented in galactic history. They have created peace through the credible threat of overwhelming force. They have ended suffering by making it too expensive to continue. They have solved problems that we considered unsolvable by refusing to accept that they were unsolvable. Are you recommending that we oppose them? Asked the council leader. I'm recommending that we learn from them, Thylex replied. For 847 civilizations, our solution to the void devourers was evacuation. For humans, the solution was to turn the void devourers into tools for galactic improvement. Perhaps it's time we stopped thinking like prey and started thinking like predators. The Council voted to establish formal diplomatic relations with Earth, not as protectors offering sanctuary, but as students requesting instruction. The galaxy's oldest and most advanced civilizations were asking a species that had discovered faster-than-light travel 6 months ago to teach them how to solve their problems. Dr. Reed, now directing galactic research initiatives, had established a simple policy for dealing with cosmic threats. If it's dangerous, we study it. If it's evil, we stop it. If it's useful, we improve it. If it's in our way, we move it. The galaxy was learning that humans had a very simple approach to problems that had been considered intractable for millions of years. They didn't try to avoid problems or manage them or contain them. They fixed them. The story ended with a new kind of peace spreading across the galaxy. Not the peace of hiding from threats, but the peace of knowing that threats would be dealt with quickly and permanently. Species that had spent millennia in fear of ancient terrors were learning that humans considered ancient terrors to be interesting engineering challenges. And in the depths of space, where the void devourers had once fed on entire civilizations, hybrid human-alien research stations were working to understand and harness the fundamental forces of the universe, turning cosmic horror into tools for building a better galaxy. The humans had kept their promise. They had laughed at the suggestion that they should run from a fight. And they had proven that sometimes the best way to protect something is to make sure that nothing in the universe is stupid enough to threaten it. The galaxy was safer now. Whether it was ready for that level of safety was still an open question,